All right. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Today is April 10th, right before Easter. So I should also say Happy Easter, too, right before Easter weekend. Thank you to everybody who is joining us tonight. As you can see, I have these three lovely ladies with me. Shang Zhong from Yes Dance Academy, and I also have Ming Zhong, dance competition coordinator of the Milwaukee New Year, and last but not least, Joy Yang, the dance competition coordinator for Oshkosh Memorial Day and Labor Day Festival and the Oshkosh Hmong New Year. And we are here today to talk about dance competitions. So I hope that all of you who are tuning in are excited for this topic and for this conversation. And so we are looking forward to the engagement. And if you guys have questions, please note them down. We will take questions after the discussion is completed because we may actually end up answering some of your questions as we do the discussion. And so my name is Payin Yahyong. Some of you guys know me already. I'm Joa's younger sister. And you guys have probably seen me from Oshkosh to Milwaukee to Wausau. And so I am happy to be the facilitator for this discussion tonight. But before we get started, let's start with introduction. So Shang, could you please introduce yourself?
All right. Hi, guys. Hopefully my connection is going good. But my name is Shang, and it's really nice to see you guys. Come join us. I was the former dance coordinator in the Fox Cities Hmong New Year and instructor and co-founder of Yes Dance Academy. I've been dancing for so long, so I won't go there, but it's really nice to be here with my dance sisters. So yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Shang. So next, Ming, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Ming. I'm actually hail from Milwaukee, but I now live in Wausau. Mother of two, wife of the oldest son. A lot of you know my husband as well, Hova, who plays for KO. I've been dancing for majority of my life as well. Started really young. I was really happy to be a dance judge. Before Gai from Gamong Samnea had recommended me to be dance coordinator for the Milwaukee New Year. I did that for 4 years. We'll see if I continue on with that. But I also love, doing community work and helping out where I can. So really excited to be here with my dance sisters. So thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you so much, Ming. And last but not least, it looks like we lost Shang. I think she's coming back here. Okay. All right. But while we're trying to get her connected back in, okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. All right. Okay, Joa, if I could have you introduce yourself, please.
Okay, so hi, hello everybody. It's a pleasure to meet all of you guys. I have the privilege and opportunity to be a competition coordinator for 3 events each year. The Hmong National Memorial Day Festival, Hmong National Labor Day Festival, and also the Oshkosh New Year, which is a smaller event. And so yeah, that's all I have to say about myself.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. Thank you to Joa, and thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. Again, I look forward to this discussion. And again, to our viewers, if you guys have questions, please write them down and ask them after we are done with the discussion, and we will answer those questions for you guys. So let's get started here. Okay, so obviously the overall topic we will discuss tonight is about, oh, Shang, you okay? Or
yeah, I was gonna ask, can you put the post on public?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that way we can share it.
Okay, yeah, I said that earlier and I forgot. Oh my god. Okay. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh, yeah, people can't see it.
Yeah. Okay, so let me, okay. All right, I said I was gonna do this earlier and I forgot. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, it should be public now. All right. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Okay. All right, and I got people who are adding me as friends so they can see it. So, okay. All right. Okay, guys. So,
right on guide people right there. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
I've
All
got
right.
us, I've got us on I've got us on the whatchamacallit, the
Hmong National Dancers.
Yeah, I've got us there. So if somebody could do on their personal Facebook, because I mean, who knows me? Who cares about Go, right? I don't have as many connections or friends as you guys do. So
Alright.
Make sure you guys do that on your pages, because I can't do it on my personal one.
Okay. Oh, hi, Pahua. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. I think it's on public and we've all shared it, so we should be seeing people as they're coming in to watch. All right, but let's dive in. Again, overall topic is on dance competitions. But the first thing we want to discuss is rules and requirements of dance competitions. So, Joel, let's start with you. When you are coordinating dance competitions, what rules and requirements do you usually work with, and why?
Okay, so for me, I mean, it could vary for everybody, but for me, one of the key things that I usually have in my rules and my regulations is definitely a time limit to the dance routines. Obviously, you know, the longer a routine, the more choreography you have to come up with, right? But for me, I keep in mind that I have a show to run, you know, for the stage. And so it's easier when there is at least a general timeline that I have in mind. So like for example, you had like what do you like say awesome na pia right? Na je go to enjoy the shin yaro lu shi awesome na awesome na how much time we have for per group. You have to consider getting on stage, coming off stage. You have to also consider if there for any reason, you know, there are technical difficulties and stuff like that. So for me, definitely a time limit on that. One of the unique things about me with my rules and regulations is that anybody who wins first place, right, whether if it's singing or dancing or pageant's different, but then especially for dance up here, whether if it's group A or group B, if you have won first place, you can definitely return to defend your title the following year. Or at the following event, because it depends. Like for example, if it's Memorial Day, if you won first place during Memorial Day, you can certainly return to Labor Day, and you can take the same routine, because Memorial and Labor Day are different events, even though they're the same park and, you know, same area and everything like that, but they are different events. So like you can come back and defend your title. I just ask that you do not bring back the same routine the following year, specifically that following event, that particularly relatable event. You could wear the same outfit if you choose to, but definitely not the same routine, because you think the whole routine, that's like the only unique thing about that. And I'm sure a lot of things that I have, likely a lot of other competitions will have as well. So definitely this is unique from the competitions that I hold.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that, Joel. So moving forward, Shang, let's go with you next. What rules and requirements do you find most important to have when you are coordinating?
Let's see. It's been a while, but if I can remember right, it was mostly being like very protective of like all the groups. So I don't want like any issues going up between groups during like before and after the competition. So it's always like if you need to go and meet someone from another group, say your sister, your brothers from another group, and you got to go help them or something, I make you sign like a slip and saying that they approve that you're the person who was helping them and stuff like that. I don't know if it's like necessary to, but then I just find that to be easier for me in case there's any issues that arises unexpectedly that would kind of help for the safety of the dancers. And then like, let's see, there's a lot, but like changing areas, making sure that it's safe for all the dancers. I think kind of really going through all like the rules that you have, to all the dancers and all the parents, making sure that they understand. I know like you talk with them over the phone, you will have to email and message them, but it's also important that you have to explain to them again. So it's like repeating everything, like the whole process, like 4 times, just to make sure that everybody is like on the same page. And then that's for dance competition, but otherwise when I did it for like other events, like the Hmong Heritage Month for Appleton, which was in 2017, that one it wasn't too bad. I did have a change in stations, all separated for all the dancers. So that's my thing, is like I just want to make sure like all the dancers and performers to have like a very safe spot for them. And then yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Shang. All right. So so next we'll go with Meng. What rules and requirements are most important to you as a coordinator?
I love everything that Zhou and Xing talked about. Some things that are a little bit different for me is I definitely have a time limit as well. No dance performance can be over 5 minutes. Again, even though I have a huge part of the program, I'm only still a small part of it, right? And so I have to stay really strict within those guidelines. Obviously, if I could extend that, I would. But another reason why we have that is also because I have a cap, right? So I've been able to grow the Milwaukee New Year competition to more teams, but I still have a cap. And everyone knows that I didn't really have, before I came on as the coordinator, we didn't really have a waiting list, but I have those every year. And I think it's just because, we hold ourselves to a higher standard of like Shang said, having those changing rooms. They might be small, we not have any lights, but it's there for you, right? I try to give out as many awards as possible. But again, it's kind of like homework for dancers, right? And the coaches, and I always joke about that, but I like giving you homework so that you are understanding what I expect from you and what you should expect from me. So having that open communication is huge for me. And I know a lot of times that our dancers, they have to take on that role themselves. So for me, I put it in my rules and regulations that, hey, you need to have someone 18 and older who is going to represent you, who is going to be my main communicator, because if you don't have that, then it's going to be really difficult, and I need to be able to communicate with you, right? And so me and Zhou and Sheng, even behind the scenes, we talk a lot too about, I'll run something past Sheng, like, hey Sheng, what do you think about this, right, as a dancer or as a coach? Or hey Zhou, like, what do you think about this? Like, us three, we talk a lot, and with you as well, but just about these different things, or if I change something, or if I see something that we model each other, right? Of I love that you do that, Joel. Like, I want to do that too, right? Like, I didn't present my scorecards, my score sheets right away, but I decided to, because I'm like, that's really important, right? And you really have to listen to your dancers so that you kind of know what their needs are, and so you can fluctuate to an extent, right? And fulfill that to make sure that it's a smoother process for everyone. So my rules and regulations are really long as well, but I think those are like some pretty key ones.
Okay.
From that, I think I'll just leave it at that, because I could talk forever about rules and regulations.
I think we all can agree that we could talk forever.
Yes, but that's awesome to hear, and it's great to see that you guys even look up to each other to help and how to continue building on each other and being better. I think development is always important, improvement is always important, so that is awesome. So to follow up on the topic of rules and requirements, I just want to ask, we all know that in a dance team, it's different than like being a singer, whereas like it takes time to choreograph a dance, it takes time to sew an outfit, it takes time to get together for all the dancers to practice, especially now that groups are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you now have dance teams that are including members from different cities from all over the place now who are getting together. And when you come up with your rules and requirements, what do you do to best accommodate the dancers? Like, in case, like, if there's a tie, do you require them to do another one, or do they just redo an old routine? Or if there's a cancellation, how soon do you let them know? Or, things like that, so that you can accommodate their needs, but at the same time still be able to do your job as a coordinator. And if the show has to go on, it must go on. So how do you balance between the two there is what I'm mainly asking. So May, we'll start with you this time.
Sure. So my first year, I had a group that actually didn't show up on Sunday, right? And so I was really saddened by that, right? Because I feel like everyone works really hard and you always want everyone to come both days. And so the reason why I had that everyone submit a deposit was so that they had to come both days. And if they didn't, then they wouldn't get that back, right? That's really important, again, because everyone's time is so valuable that I don't want somebody to feel like, oh, they could have been that team who came both days, right? So that's kind of how I deal with that. I have a check-in time. I'm pretty strict with check-ins with my dance teams, and I think that I've built my reputation enough for people to know that they need to check in, and that's why we have that early check-in, so that just in case the program is going really fast or it's behind schedule, that it's a safety net for us, so that dance can everyone's prepared, right? So that's kind of how I deal with that. As far as ties go, it's always been in my rules that if there is a tie, that the two teams that tied would have to go perform the same song, but in front of new judges. I know other New Year's, they do, a different song, or you have to have a backup. I just do the same on different judges. I have backup judges for both divisions on hand in case that happens. And of course, that happened last year, right? During my last year. So that was kind of crazy. That's never happened before. But I think that just also proves the point that everyone is just so competitive and everyone brought their A game, which is really exciting. As far as cancellations, like I've had waiting lists for the last couple years, and I let people know that for comfort level for me, it kind of depends on the dance teams, right? If they're saying, hey, we're in Wisconsin, and if you let us know like latest by Wednesday before we can still come or whatever, it depends on how comfortable the team is. But the order of the waiting list will always stay the same. If they want to drop off, they will drop off. And then I let the people know, hey, you guys moved up a spot, right? So again, I try to be as communicative as possible. And again, because I want to be fair, and I don't ever want somebody to feel like, oh, Ming like favors this group or Ming favors that group, right? Like everyone knows at the same time when things go live or when things change. For everyone, and that's why I also do orientations, or I try to, so that again, if something is updated, everyone knows. And also, like for the day of both my competitions, I have group texts from each division so that they're constantly receiving updates from me, and that's kind of how I kind of deal with it. Luckily, I haven't had anything really major happen, so I can't speak to anything else, but that's just how I've handled things.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ming. All right. So next, let's go to Joa. What do you do in order to try to help accommodate dancers, knowing what the difficulties are behind the scenes with getting prepared, but at the same time, making sure that you're doing your job as the coordinator too?
Sure, I think我古巴都是的，中车 plan 来就是和古等接了内呢，头古啥古就一模的古就 competition participants right，古因找个路是和我等你考个 time range 古啥的的时候头比木头头少，了有路是和他这边有比的呢。这女也帮助路是对呢，so 那么多就是古个那个 check 那边有 ，so to me 可能以后一考古真的等你8年呢。And then, so that's like the best thing that I can say as far as accommodation. The other thing would be, if I were to comment about the ties, something because I believe, Mang, you were talking about that earlier. Everybody kind of does it a little different way. For me, what I see that would accommodate both myself with the show that I have to run, along with the participants. For example, dance team or whatever tie up definitely I ask that everybody stays in their outfit, and usually 头路是和和让素台的你有了手呢，那些 green ask 是的人要是这样的 ，if for any reason 没 ties 呢，那些 we just do a tiebreaker right there and then with the same panel of judges. The circumstances is that the events that I hold, they're not just like in a building, right? Memorial and Labor Day are outside. Ni chỉ trong lấy có nhau lúc tổ chức có chào bắt đầu là cái khu đó là chỉ là lọt sai xin. So you have to I have to take into account that it's a huge area, and so because of that, it's much easier if I just have the same panel of judges judge them, and we just have them do their most recent round, which is the second round or third round, whatever it is, and have them break the tie that way. That way you save on time, and everybody is there, hopefully. I don't have to go chasing after anybody, and it's a done deal right there.
Okay, all right. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Joel. Okay, so Sheng, so how do you, as a coordinator, how do you balance between accommodating dancers with what they have to do to prepare, and at the same time making sure that you are able to do your job as a coordinator?
Yeah, so what I usually do is I always make sure that I have like kind of like a layout of which table I'm going to be at from bird's eye view, and then be like, hey, I'm going to be at this table, send everybody the layout so that when they're at the New Year, or well, at least for me, I did it at the New Year, or the event, they see that, okay, like this is where this is, the stage. Okay, she's talking about this table, and making the table, making the check-in area look very noticeable, so that way dancers don't have a hard time running through like back and forth, side to side to check. And especially for us coordinators, at least for me, it's staying at the location that you're supposed to be at while checking like the students, the dancers in, right? And so and then when they come check in, right, you just I always make sure that they have their music checks. So going to like, they have to come like at like a certain time before, and then go and check their music. Whether it's good, like it's gonna be CDs or USB, phone, iPads, whatever they use, just making sure that it works. And especially now that we have like a lot of groups that like to mix music and stuff, it's important that they, like one of them, like having to tell like a parent or a dancer and saying, hey, you guys got to make sure that you guys have one person standing by the player, letting them know when to stop the music, because it may not be our fault, it may be our fault, we don't know, but just make sure that you guys are there until your group is done. Okay, yeah, just making sure like those kind of stuff happens, so that way it's safe on the coordinators and the dancers on the same page. Like Joa said, it is a huge responsibility because we're the ones literally running the whole show. If there isn't a show running, what are the audience going to do, right? Kind of. And so, yeah, because I'm saying that because they covered most of the other stuff. Like Joa said, I think for me, for ties, I'm going to say is have them stay in their last round outfit. And we're just going to have to continue that round. And having new judges come up, making sure that you have judges that are not from the first or second or first day, same day for the second day, to come back to judge, right? You want judges who have different perspectives for the same group. That way, at least that way the score will be a little bit more different this time, hopefully, because your goal is to not get a tie again, right?
Yep.
So that's important. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it's nice to see some different perspectives, and I think when it boils down, when you boil down to it, there really isn't a right or a wrong way to do it. Sometimes you do have to treat it on a case by case basis as well.
Mhm.
But I think that regardless, it comes with experience, and over time, you get better at it. But yeah, thank you all for sharing regarding that. Okay, so let's
Sorry,
go
can I make
to
one
the
more
next topic. And so next, I would like to ask about scoring and categories. So, what categories do you, as a coordinator, find most important to be judged in terms of dance, and what kind of scoring system do you personally like to use? So, Shang, let's start with you this time.
Oh, for sure. I think it's got to be music, creativity for sure. I think that plays a really important role um, for those scoring sheets because you want to see how this group, how creative they are, like what kind of things they can use, something that would throw a surprise at you and your audience, right? So creativity for sure. Let's see, hand movements or movements, making sure that they have the right energy as a whole team. I think that's important. I think it always defines like teamwork, at least to me. That's how I see it. And what else is there? There's quite a lot that I always prefer. For sure, like transition. Sorry, that's so that's different. Transition, that's for sure. Seeing how smooth they are running and moving around the stage, utilization of the stage. How are they moving around the stage, using the stage as like a fair whole entire team, and not just like one side having like way too much dancers. Unless that's how their routine is for like a certain like few seconds or something. Feel like I'm missing a few, but those are like kind of like my main ones that I always look is like teamwork, energy, movements, transitions, utilizing the stage, and body movements. I feel like those are very important because that's really important in dance. So
Okay. All right. And scoring wise, do you like to use scoring where like everything is scored on the same scale, or do you weigh more categories? Are certain categories weighed more than others? So, what kind of scoring system do you like to use?
I know that a few coordinators are different. So for me, I personally like using like a same scale. Um, Something like maybe 1 to 5, and they can always like put different numbers in between, or 1 to 10. So I feel like with the bigger, uh, with like the older dancers, it could be like 1 to 10. I feel like that's appropriate. With the younger dancers, it could be 1 to 10 too, but I mean it's different for like younger dancers because they're a lot younger and they're still learning. So I feel like going a little easy on the dancers for the little girls is necessary too. So like maybe a 1 to 5, kind of like how Ming did it at the Milwaukee
Mm-hmm.
New Year. But I personally like using from 1 to 10, and then they could put any decimals in between. I feel like that's a way of not making ties, and that's a way of at least giving the judges for them to know how to give scores between like a 1 to 10. Like one, obviously we may know that it's very low score. A 10 is like pretty high score, and having it all like laid out on the score sheets is very easy for the judges too. So yeah, I'd say like a 1 to 10 depending.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Shang. So, Ming, let's go to you next. So, what categories do you feel as a coordinator should be judged, and what kind of scoring system do you like to use?
Yeah, so I think everyone's pretty aware of my score sheets. I definitely upgraded those when I came on board, just because I feel like, to me, the most heavily weighted is choreography, right? That's like the heart and soul and the bones of your routine. So within choreography, that section, which is 30 points on my score sheet, there's creativity and musicality, difficulty, information, and transitions, right? So those things are like the core of your choreography. Other things that are on my score sheet are technique and group execution are 25 points each. Again, both equally as important. And so it's really about your placement and control. How synchronized are you? How's your spacing, right? So that comes out with technique and your group execution. Again, super important when you're looking at kind of like the level of where the team is on an average, right? Like you always have your really top-notch dancers and you have those that are kind of like a little bit weaker or a little bit behind. So, you know, obviously strategically you place those folks in the back, right? You have your stronger dancers in the front, but as long as they can, as a team, you look clean and you are synchronized, you're always going to score higher than if you had your weak dancers in the front, right? Who are a little bit more sloppy or whatever. So those are kind of just like techniques that I think everyone is definitely aware of. And then overall effect for me has 20 points. So my score sheet for the pro is 100 points. So that's how I break it down. And then overall effect, that's kind of where the overall impression comes in with your energy, your outfit, your music, and the judge's overall impression of your whole routine as a whole. And then also kind of an added thing that I added in there was your communication and projection, right? Like, are you evoking like a story or like an emotion from us? Like that comes with musicality as well, but I feel like that's still something that we should think about, right? As creative people and as dancers, like that's ultimately what you want to do, right? To really get people so drawn into your performance that like, I mean, like it's hard to get a 10, but I know it when I see it. You know what I mean? I've been a dancer, I've been a judge, and I've been a coordinator. So it's kind of like, for me, it's hard for me to score a 10, but people have gotten really, really close, right? Like, and that's because of it's a whole complete picture, right? When you're taking a look at that. So that's kind of all the things that I judge. And to Shang's point, my Rising Star division, it's the same things, but on a lower scale, just because we know that they're developing these skills, right? And so I think that if you have two different divisions, it's fair to have different score sheets, judged on the same things, but different scale. So that's how I do it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Awesome. So thank you so much for that, May. And
one
so,
last comment, for me, sorry, one last comment is that I do allow my judges to do half points, just because I think for some people it's hard to do kind of decimals beyond that. I know that Joel's different, but for me, I only allow half points. And of course, I got my first tie last year, but we haven't had a lot of ties in Milwaukee, so that's why I allowed that. And I feel like it might be easier for folks to measure half points than decimals, just from experience. But I definitely respect, other ways that people have done it. I just wanted to throw that in there as well.
Oh, okay. All right. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Again, another great perspective on how to do that. So, Joa, what categories do you as a coordinator find most important to be judged, and what kind of scoring system do you prefer?
Sure. Before I get into that, right, I want to just comment on Meng right there about the ties. All I'm gonna say is, oh, coño shit, yes. That's all I'm going to say.
She was actually my counter, my verifier, and she was like, oh, there's a tie.
coño shit, no. So, and with that, I'm going to use that point to go into Google response, right? And I'm just going to slide right into about the ties, and then I'll answer the rest, right? So with the ties, right, for me, I do a scoring system of 1 through 10. And the reason why I do that is because I believe that more range is going to open up the door for hopefully less ties. That's just my thought on that. You could do a 1 through 5 too. I think it's pretty standard 1 through 5 or 1 through 10. I don't do just the half point system. I actually do the decimal system to the nearest 10th. So you could do like a 0.3, a 0.7, and that is really to, again, really try to prevent ties. And so, yeah, I know what it's like to have a tie now because very nervous and very stressful. So that's my outlook on the scoring system. As far as categories, Botali, Sheng, and Meng had mentioned already. There's just a couple that I'm just going to pick up from my rubric that I have. Definitely one of the things that I have is costume Okay, your outfit appearance, right? Lamuto music selection, because honestly, music is really everything from beginning to end. What you perform is going to be, the tone of it is set by your music. Okay, another thing is synchronization. That's just, I think, more of a visual and appealing to the eye, because honestly, you want to see something very clean. And if everybody is very together, very sync, it looks really nice. Versus if you are, half the team is already on this move and the other half is still trailing behind, with the exception of echoes, of course. It's just more appealing to the eye. And then for me, one thing that is unique, I think that about my score sheets that I have is the wow factor. And a wow factor is literally like, okay, it kind of is a combination of creativity and choreography, your overall performance. How mesmerized was I by your performance, right? How mesmerized were the judges? What do they think of it? So it's kind of like an overall score. And I leave that for me, I leave that as 20 points because honestly, the sky's the limit with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So, follow-up question for all of you guys. Looking back at history, all right, so think back to when you guys were still dancing and competing, and first of all, like obviously the transparency of scores was not how it is now, too, as you guys may have experienced. And even for those who were transparent about it, obviously the scoring and everything was very, very different. To my knowledge, it was not very broken down and detailed, like how you guys have it today. So, looking back at what you guys have experienced and seen, how have you used that to develop what you guys have now, to make it better? And I guess why did you choose to like, well, what did you say to yourself, like, this is my experience and I want to make it better for the next generation? So how did you determine that from what you have experienced in the past? May, let's start with you with that.
Okay, so talking about score sheets, you said. Sorry, I was answering your brother's question, so
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Yep.
So my first year as coordinator, I actually didn't allow folks to see their score sheets right away. And to me, my thinking was that I just wanted to protect my judges. Again, because social media has really boomed the last 10 years, and not that I've seen any of my dancers do this, but again, I just don't want people to really attack judges or to have judgments or just say, hey, like, this judge doesn't like us or whatever the case may be. Like, it's really hard, right, to kind of find qualified judges who don't know anyone but has like the experience. It's really tough already. And so I decided to not allow that. However, after speaking, more with Jo and building our relationship and seeing how she's very transparent with score sheets, I decided to change that. Again, and also listening to the feedback of my dancers. I think it's so important to ask for feedback and to really listen. And so I've made many changes over the last 4 years with how just making things easier for the dancers and the coaches. And again, trying to have a backup plan for my backup plan, right? In case. And I tell everyone they'll get a copy digitally as well so that they can have that forever on their, for their history or whatever that case is. Growing up as a dancer, I was one of the first OG dancer groups of Milwaukee, and we never got to see our scores and we never knew what our scores were, right? And we just so like we were just those flabby little girls, and then if we won, we won. If we didn't, we just went home, right? Like we didn't really like talk about it or even talk about how we can improve. We just kept doing what we were doing, and I really love and appreciate the fact that dancers care and that they want to know feedback, and they really grow from the feedback. And so if I'm a judge, I try to write as much as I can, hoping that these will be shared with the dancer so that they can see why I scored them maybe a little bit lower for synchronization, right? Or for their transitions. Or maybe they had like a really good formation, but their transition was off to the formation, right? So these are important things they should know in order to better themselves as dancers. And I know that the dancers these days, like, they love and they crave that. again, so that they can, just excel as dancers. So.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for that, May. Next, let's go to Jua. Again, looking back on history and how score sheets used to be back then, and the transparency of scores. How have you used those experiences to develop what you have today and what you're doing for the dancers today?
Okay, so for me, I noticed that before I even start to go about the score sheets, about when we get to see them, before, obviously, like Meng said, we didn't get to see those score sheets. And when we started competing, we started out not being able to see, right? And I think from the many years of experiences with just competing in a lot of competitions, I've learned to realize that, look at it like you're taking a test at school, right? You study for it. In this case, when you're dancing, you practice and you prepare for it, right? And you go and you take a test, right? And you should at least at the very end get to see how you scored on that test, instead of just not knowing, and you just all of a sudden you're like, oh, I passed. If I didn't pass, I didn't pass, right? So that's my perspective on it. So from that, I saw that when we did start to see our score sheets, I felt that there were too few categories, and they were too general. And obviously the very usual ones were like costume and music, and like synchronization and maybe choreography, like babe blow, yeah, that I saw. Maybe at most 5, and I felt that it needed to be expanded more. We need to be more detailed to an extent, and be able to capture different other aspects of a performance that is being used to compete in a competition now. So that's my thought on it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. So, Shang, looking back on history and how scoring and transparency was back then, how have you used those experiences that you've had to develop where you are today and how you coordinate?
Yeah. So I'm gonna be honest with you. When I started dancing, it was, I think, at least I'm gonna start from Go Home USA, because that's when I actually remember that I was competing. When we competed, we were like 10, 12, 13. We really didn't care for our score sheets. We just knew that we were having a lot of fun. The parents, however, always goes and see the score sheets, and they always make sure we get pictures of our score sheets. There are quite some dance competitions that would say, no, you guys can't take pictures of it, you guys can only see it. So the parents, just coming out of what they say, is they're always like, oh, like, you guys need more control, and you guys need more better like lines, like transitions. And we were kids, we only listened to our parents, we didn't know what to do. So we come back to dance practice and do that, right? So after like a while, until maybe 6 years later, finally, we came to realize that it's true. The more you watch dancers on stage, the more you realize, like, hey, well, they didn't do this, or maybe that's good, right? So you start to see that, and you're gonna be like, wait, I think that should be like an important category that we should do, is like transitions really good. I don't remember having that during like my first few years, if that's what the parents say. I can't remember, but I know that it's always coming from the parents, and whatever that they say it, 6 years later, we're like, okay, we're gonna apply it to our new dances and stuff. And so when we see that, we're like, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense to have those being like scored on. So for instance, I don't think the music was a big thing at all, because it was kind of like freestyle back then, until a few competitions started to have Hmong like as a required round, right?
Yep.
So that's how I remember it. And something that stay very transparent. We've had, like, when I was a lot older and started taking control over dancing and stuff, I would go with the parents to go see our score sheets, and yeah, I noticed that talking to the coordinators, because they were a lot older, probably like my parents' age when they were coordinating this, and they were saying that we can't let you guys see it, because it's not fair for the other groups. And well, we're like, well, then maybe next year you guys should consider having like all dance groups see it, right? So just being transparent as a coordinator, and as a dancer, be respectful to your coordinator too, and yeah, and just making sure that like when you come up with categories and stuff like that, it's not too basic, because honestly all these dancers work so hard on like all their dances, all their clothes, and they deserve much more than like all these like just very little basic categories that you're just gonna simply judge on. They deserve much more than that. So yeah, something that's a lot more rich for all dancers.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much to all you guys for sharing your perspectives on that. And I think there's definitely a variety of perspectives on that. But I think just for me personally, I have seen the dance competition era. I've seen it develop and build so much. And maybe there was a bit of there was some lack of knowledge back in the day where we just weren't as developed yet,
Yeah.
but that has definitely been built now into something much more solid. And I think the development of the score sheets and the transparency has developed along with that, and that's for all of you guys, to thank all of you guys for making that happen and making a positive impact on that for our dancers. So thank you to all of you. I do just want to let all of our viewers know, I know we're getting a lot of viewers right now. We are taking questions. We have one more topic to go over, and then we are taking questions after that. So feel free to write your questions down. You can comment, but we may not be able to read every single comment right away, and we may end up answering your question while we are discussing. So write it down, and whatever you guys come up with, we will answer it after this last topic. All right. So the final thing that I know a lot of people are very, very interested in is judge selection. So let's start with Shang. As a coordinator, how do you select your judge panel?
Yeah, so I know there's always a lot of dancers or dance mom, dance parents are very curious about this question too. So I'm going to be honest, is I always look for judges who have the knowledge in dancing. For instance, if it's like singing, I'm not gonna have like a person who is just like maybe like a local singer, but at least that they have the knowledge, and maybe like they've taken places, or they have come in album. They know what they're gonna judge the contestants on, right? So same goes with dancing. I, as a dancer, if I were to be on stage and I see a dancer who, or a judge who doesn't know anything, or when I hear, like, it's important that the coordinators also add in the bios as well. So that's kind of like telling you like how this person is, or like deserving of this judge panel, right? So I always find dancers who have been like very high out there, not super high, but at least that they know, they have the knowledge, and that they are aware of like the categories that I'm judging on. So if they have a dance group that may have done something that is different, they still understand the concept of a dance group, what they're doing, versus maybe someone who may not really know what they're judging on, or have no like knowledge in dance, or doesn't have that like natural talent, or talent among that area. Then I feel like it's a lot harder for them to judge on the dance groups. And even the dancers themselves can judge themselves, saying, well, this, like, they may say that they're good and stuff like that, right? So you kind of want like judges who understand, they know, and sorry, I'm losing my words here. Yeah, so just basically they know it. They are precise in what they're looking for, and just because you have that category there for them, as long as they expand right outside the box and say, hey, like, I know that I have to judge on this, but this dance group even though they did something wrong, they still pulled back and did something right at the end of their dance. And just making sure that the judges know how the dancers are performing and stuff. I feel like I repeated that like a few times, sorry. But I feel like, yeah, that part is like really important, just to get judges who are very talented and knowledgeable on that part.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that perspective. All right. So next, I will go to Joa. How do you select your judge panel?
Sure. So ideally na ma the kukina ma kuin sa sa ka tawe joy la mua ko knowledge like expertise in that particular field, like applicable field, right? This shi kusa ka shira ta tawe dia nu chia ho yong yi na ta kho hai dia sometimes the jo ka tung ba hai ka nu tu no li ka tu nu to je jong ling na pi but they don't. Unfortunately, some people just never respond for some odd reason. They may have seen your message, but they just don't respond to you ever for whatever reason. Okay, let me get back to you. And you either hear or you don't hear back from them. So part of it is a timing thing, okay? And it just depends on when you start when you kind of know when you have to get your ducks in order, right? So it doesn't always go as planned. But again, ideally, you want to find someone or a panel who, has experience in that field or that industry, but it doesn't just, it just never works out 100%. And initially, when I started doing competitions, I wanted just an entire panel of experts, right? But I've over time, I've come to realize that being a judge is no different than a person with an opinion, right? Because those judges, they are there to critique based off of their opinion according to the rubric that they have in front of them, right? And so, because anybody can just give their opinion like that, it just comes down to who you would like to select to be on that panel. So because of that, then I like to have my panels be very diverse. So I won't have just all people who have dance experience or singing experience or pageant experience. I feel that it's good to not just see from one angle, but different other angles of perspective. And, maybe someone who's a little bit older, like those of us who are now veteran dancers, compared to somebody who maybe is still younger, will have different perspectives, even though we are in the dance field. So again, for me, being diverse and having different angles of perspective to judge, so it's not just one core field. And another reason behind that is really because I think everybody should understand that the way how they dance now, nu a sports league, nu a lu dance now, right? We don't have names for our types of moves that we do. We don't have like official titles or something to reference that. Okay, this is move, XYZ. That's move ABC, like that. We don't have that, and we can't critique to like how other types of dancing are critiqued, because at least to my knowledge, those other types of dancing they've got their own names and own procedures and own things that surround them in their own field or their own industry now. So because with the Hmong dancing, or at least the style of dancing that we see around these days that are used for competitions, it's very freestyle. And so because it's so freestyle, you can't judge it specifically with to like how other competitions are judged, like Mikali, Jolly, like things like that. So yeah, because of that, and it's really wide open, I figured it's easier to just get a diverse range of perspectives.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that. So, Meng, how do you select your judge panel as a coordinator?
So first and foremost, I look at veteran dancers, of those who are not heavily affiliated with current dance groups or have stopped dancing, but like everyone said, has the knowledge, right? First and foremost, that is number one. So I've looked at my previous dancers who are no longer affiliated with anybody in the dance community. I look at other coordinators, first and foremost. And then from there, it's kind of like, that's my primary. Secondary would be people, I've had judges who know music, right? So again, it's diverse, but not so far off that they wouldn't understand. So they understand performance and music, and like synchronicity, because I feel like singers or people who have been a part of a band understand that, like a performance, right? So I've had folks like that. I haven't had anybody really like too far off when it comes to being a judge. They either have music or dance background, or are currently involved in a different type of dance, because again, to Joel's point, yeah, sometimes it's hard to judge technicality, but the people who do that type of dance can, right? Or they have a better eye for it and can see it faster. And so for me, that's really important to get, that's kind of the diversity that I think in my mind of different skill sets that they bring to the table. And then for me, I do orientation with all my judges, because I'm like, you know what? I cannot have you come into my competition and not know what the heck you're looking at. Because then you're going to mess up the whole thing, right? So everybody that volunteers for me sees the same stuff. They have the same rules and regulations. They know all the dance rules. They're aware that they cannot associate themselves with any dancer or dance teams or dance coaches until after it's all complete. They know exactly like what I added, the scoring scale of, okay, if you kind of do this range, this is what it means, right? If you do this range, this is kind of what it means, but I need you to add comments, right? And I really, really push that with my judges, because again, that's so valuable to the dancers. And so I try my best to really, really prep them. And again, it's always going to come down to your own judgment, right? What do you see in front of you? And I've talked about this to other dancers too, that it's really hard being a judge, right? Because you're trying to watch the performance and then also keep in mind the back of your head, all these things that they're supposed to look at, right? And then also remember to add a comment if they are to score you kind of lower than what the dancers will probably want to see on their score sheet. And so it's a really hard job, but again, know that we take that very seriously, and that we would never, we never do anything ill-intentioned. And it's hard to find a judge that doesn't know another person, right? I mean, come on, we're such a small community that
that's true.
Yeah.
And that's why they take an oath. That's why they sign waivers, just like dancers do.
Yeah.
I go through all the same things with my judges that I do with my dancers, my coaches, and all my volunteers, because I want to be completely transparent, and I always say, if you know one of these dance groups, tell me now, forever hold your peace, because if the issue arises, it is not on me, it is on you. Okay. You signed the paper, and I cannot take responsibility for that because I asked you, right? And so you have to be coming. If you don't, that's your own problem at the end of the day. But luckily with me, I haven't had any issues with judges. And I feel like everyone also knows that I take it seriously, so they take their job seriously. And I've been really blessed to have like really great judges. And so I'm really happy about that. I know I kind of mentioned this to Joel once, that I would love to hold like a judge masterclass. It's not so that we all have the same opinion, but just so that we know what to look for, right? I think that's just so important. Have like a strong skill set of like multitasking and truly being a good judge in the heat of the moment when your opinion really, really matters, right? Especially if it's a tiebreaker, especially if it's a really competitive show that you're watching and that you're judging. So ultimately, I would love to host something like that. And I would love to rack your brains about that, because I think that that's really helpful. I did see that somebody had commented, about having similar judges. Me and Joel try so hard not to have the same judges, guys. Okay.
Oh my God, we do. Oh my
God. This person, are like, hey, are you using this person? Right. So like we try to be as diverse and to use as much of the talent as we have. But like Joel said, some people don't want to, or they say they will, but then I'm not coming. Or, sometimes we have to ask last minute people because they are not coming or something happens. Right. So there's so many unknowns that we try to cover ourselves. And that's why I always have backup judges. Luckily, I haven't had a tie in previous years, but they're also there for a tie, and also just in case someone doesn't show up. Like, it's freaking hard, and you know, a lot of times these people are going to be there anyways, and so they might as well volunteer and be a part of it, right?
Yes.
And so when it comes to that piece, it's not like too much to ask them to be there, but it's just getting that commitment. So
yeah, and I just want to add to Ma's part about the judges. Making sure that you trust your judges too. You're asking them to for their time to come help you. And if you hear something from maybe a coordinator, a parent, or dancer and complaining, you can always be transparent with the judge too if you want, but just trust your judges. You select them for a reason because you see who they are, why you selected them, right? So trust them and know that they will do fine if they can take you seriously, and you can just respect them and take them seriously too, right? So yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that, Ming, and then also to you, Shang, for the follow-up there. It is very, very difficult. I mean, having been all over the place now from Oshkosh to Appleton to Wausau to Milwaukee, every single time, I don't think I've ever experienced an event where a judge did not drop out last minute. So having that happen, yes, we would love to do detailed orientation with everyone, but I think at every single time somebody's going to end up taking a crash course as a judge, and it may not necessarily be someone who's experienced because they may not be available if you ask them last minute as well. But like we always say, the show has to go on, and you want to make it work somehow. And so that brings me to my follow-up question. I know that kind of based on the feedback that we're getting from viewers, it looks like most people do favor having a panel of judges who are qualified, experienced, and knowledgeable, which makes 100% sense. However, looking at another perspective of that, if you are a dancer, you pay attention a lot to the dance community, and you're very knowledgeable. And at the same time, you have your own style that you like. You have your own groups that you like, maybe more than others. And could that possibly impact the way that you are judging if you know who's coming? And whereas for somebody who doesn't know anything about dancing, they can actually come in with a more open mind, which we actually want everybody to come in with an open mind, right? But I think it would be a little bit easier for someone who's not knowledgeable with dance to be open-minded versus someone who is very experienced, because like I said, they have their own style they like, they have their own groups that they probably like, and knowing who's there and who's not there may kind of impact how they judge, and because they may have a preconceived notion already. So how do you guys take that into consideration versus experienced and non-experienced judges, and how do you balance between that? So Jua, I'll start with you with that. How do you balance between that?
Sure. So for me, right, you control 知道的谁能do more knowledge 的家 right? Whether if they know some teams or they don't, okay? That's something that you can't control. What you can control, however, is those who are in the competition. And as far as the names, right, of course. So for me, my personal perspective is that if you are there to compete, right, you ask yourself, why are you there competing, okay? Really raw and honest here. Why are they competing, okay? I believe that everybody should be competing because they choose to, not because they know that so-and-so is coming to compete and they want to go head-to-head against them, or that so-and-so is not coming. Okay, so, maybe one less person, one less team or whatever, right? You're there to compete because you want to, not because of anybody else, okay? And so with the judges, whether they know the teams or not, which I will answer because I'm sure some people are wondering, so Zhua, do you tell them, right? The honest truth is that I never reveal any of that information until the day the competition is happening. So the judges don't know. So when they walk in, they may have taken a look at the agenda. They may have not. they just go there and judge according to it's okay or you told to buy you know. And kind of backtracking just a little bit here. Um, you and of course what Shang said too. You have to trust them because you asked them for a job, and they have to trust you too. Because you're doing a job, right? Everybody has their own role, and of course they don't just right? They have their own regulations and rules that they have to sign to, right? So for me specifically, part of the reason why you guys never see me at all, usually when competition is happening, is because I'm busy making sure that everything is well balanced and that nothing is, tilting too much to one side or the other. Basically, the whole competition doesn't fall apart, right? Because I hold to my judges that they are being honest, and that, for example, in the very scenario that they may know a certain person or know a certain team, law, I leave it to my judge to be the one to inform me that if they feel that they have a conflict of interest in that moment, they have the responsibility to notify me, regardless if it's the beginning of competition, during that particular round, or after now. It's their job because yes, it's true that they mona they get down the she be go to church here, be she changly, that she 这个是成了点也好被有 catch 的那边 because that's just how ballooning is. And so you're going to change the king that you go to the hero go be go talk or do go in change the go you on jan na is that you to was a lot is that you to Josh it here ya had the mo hatu the zalo be or coordinators na na ya belulu holu you'll sure dollar na that she be chia shower be about there do not you on jalo le to don le ting to not cause be she ball now okay be she ball be ball so, that's what I hold my judges to. You gotta be open with me, and as much as I'm open with you. So that's what I have to say on that.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that, Joa. So next, I will go to Meng. So Meng, how do you balance between making sure that judges, whether they're experienced or not, come in with an open mind and making sure that they have that responsibility to come to you if they feel there may be a conflict?
Yep. So like I said before, I hold an orientation and kind of use just my public knowledge of what's kind of going on, right? Of who's kind of doing what, or have I come across somebody who is not really a big part of the Hmong community, but still has that dance experience? Those are the type of people that I really look for too. And again, that's kind of how I diversify my judges. And through that orientation, again, like I said before, they have the same rules that the dancers do, that my volunteers do. They read it, I go through it with them. They know my score sheet. I tell them to study it. They get it ahead of time, just so, not so that they can favor someone, right? And they also don't know who my dancers are. I know that I'm the only competition that announces it, but I announce it the week of, right? And I say to them, I just need you to judge what's in front of you. I don't care what goes on after that or even before you come to me that day. All I need you to do is judge what is right in front of you at that very moment. That's all that matters to me. Okay. And if you can promise me that you'll do that, that's what I'm here for. And this is why I need you to be comfortable, right, with my score sheet. I need you to know what I expect from you and what to look for before you come. Because if you don't know and you end up scoring everyone low, that's not okay either, right? And so I try to prep them in that way. And again, I know that my score sheet definitely looks different from Joa's, but I just feel like you just have to, again, have that knowledge and trust in yourself as well, that you know what you're looking for, or that if somebody is lacking in something, that you're able to write that down quickly, right? And it's really fast, right? I never gave my judges extra time. And then I went to Joa and said, oh, that's really smart, giving them just 1 extra minute, right? Every minute counts in a program, but giving the judges that extra minute is really, really helpful, so they don't lose their train of thought, and so they can write down their comments, right? So we can only do so much on our end, right? And again, it comes down to the building trust. And again, to me, I would love to have some sort of basic training to be a dance judge, because to me, that's just so important. And sometimes, you know, we do have younger dancers who this is like their life, right? So you want it to be a good experience for everyone on all different levels. And so I would love to streamline that as much as possible.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective, Meng. And so, Sheng, so from your perspective, how do you balance between making sure that judges, whether experienced or not with dancing, are coming in with an open mind, but also, you know, making sure that they are keeping, you know, their personal, if they are biased or any personal thoughts to the side as a judge, so and that they are communicating with you as a coordinator if they feel that there may be a conflict.
Yeah, so I think Shua and Maine covered a lot of what I was gonna say too about the orientation. The judges have to sign a sheet. Their oath is very important so that they're aware. And basically, because I've judged dances for so long, whatever that I feel is right to do, I want my judges to be like that too. So I know that like many of us say a lot of dancers come in with different dance styles. It's true, right? We don't have like Hmong dancing is not like jazz or specifically like salsa or ballet, right? It's it's almost like a freestyle. We dance through the music that the music is the one that guides us, right? So that's how I feel with Hmong dancing. And I feel like if you're going to be a judge, leave anything personal out the door. Stay professional. Live up to your like judge name, right? If they say that you're a judge, like sure you're a judge, live up to that name. Have the dancers, they're looking up to you. Okay, and that's how I feel like is leave everything out the door. You come in as a judge, it's a serious duty at this point. You're just not there to fool around. You're giving these score sheets defining all these dancers dance history for yourself, for the coordinators, all the dancers. This is going to take a huge effect on their life 10 20 years from now, just like how it is for us veteran dancers, right? So as a judge, even if you probably have like a little issue with anybody you know that is coordinating or competing in the dance, just be open-minded and just know that like just because you don't like that dance, it's okay. You go with what is like Ming said, what's in your score sheet. Even if you don't like them, you got to know that hey, that's their dance style, right? However, I do want to make sure that my judges are looking for something that's appropriate. Like, is the dancers are they performing something that's appropriate for their age or appropriate for like the audience and stuff like that. And what I mean by appropriate is something like, you know, if they're younger kids, something that like they're dancing and it's not like revealing anything about themselves, but something that's appropriate for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's appropriate for the age. Yeah. So yeah, as a judge, leave everything out the door, be professional, live up to your judge name, and whatever that you don't like, I feel like you can always comment, write your comments. And I also like my judges to be as thorough and as honest as possible because dancers pick these up, hopefully, right? They pick these up and better themselves, right? And for the betterment of the Hmong dance community, that's what you have to do is be honest. And so yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that, Shang. All right. And so we covered three really big topics there: judge selection, scoring, and categories, and the rules and requirements. And I think we actually touched on a lot of the questions that the viewers had asking about judges. So we are now going to go into viewer questions. Okay. And I was writing them down as we were going along here. So I'm just gonna kind of go down the list here, and if you have a question, please feel free to put it down in the comment. So qualified judges, we did go through that already, so I'm not gonna have them repeat that again there, but you can just kind of rewatch the video later. I know a lot of people are wondering, because of the situation with the pandemic right now, is there going to be an event this year? And Zhua, I think this particularly pertains to you with the summer event. So I will have you answer that.
Sure. I think that everybody is watching the news every day, waiting to see, what the current situation is and, what the outlook is going to be. And so right now, we are doing the same thing too, because to us, safety is the number one concern. And so with any event, we will always let you guys know if for any reason it does not happen or if it does happen. Right now, it is like early April. I don't really want to say mid yet because we're not exactly mid yet. So whenever we have any new updated information, we will let you guys know. You're going to want to follow the pages. And, as always, feel free to, message me on Facebook or by phone if you are wondering about it. Right now, it's just, one day at a time and just, seeing how things are going to play out. So I know a lot of people are wondering about Memorial Day, so that's what I have for that. Anything else beyond that, I don't have any update on. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that, Joel. Okay, so going into some more questions, we did have some questions about how to handle tiebreakers, and then you guys had already touched on whether it's good to use the judges you have or having a new panel. So I'm not going to have you guys repeat that, but they did ask, would it be more efficient to remove either the highest or lowest scores to determine the tie versus doing an actual tiebreaker? So Shane, what do you think about that? I'll start with you.
All right. So, okay, you're going to hate me for this, but can you repeat that one more time?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I was reading Kalea's question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So if there is a tie, could it be more efficient to remove either the highest or lowest scores or both to streamline the tiebreaker process versus doing an actual tiebreaker round?
Honestly, I feel like that depends how many rounds you have. Because if some competitions nowadays only has 2, and if you're gonna do that, I don't like. It's almost like kind of wasting the judges' time on the second round and first round. But if you're gonna have like a third round and that happens, it could be possible. Done that before, and I just growing up, I like the fact that there's judges for the tiebreaker round. And this is something I want to add too, is when I look for judges, and if I feel like there's going to be a tie or getting ready for a tiebreaker round, I always let my judges know that, hey, like you are for the tiebreaker round only, and if you're able to judge, will you be willing to stay until we know that we don't need tiebreaker judges? And that's the hard part, is like Meng and Zhou have said before, it's hard to find judges. But if they say, that's okay, yeah, I can stay, or no, you can't stay, you have to go find, or no, I can't stay, then you as the coordinator have to go find another judge. So that plays a lot with that too. And so I feel that sure, it could be necessary, but depending on how many rounds you have, could be like a big factor for that too.
Okay. All right. Well, yep. Thank you for sharing your perspective on that. So, Meng, what's your thoughts? I guess would you? I know that I think for you, you had it where you would do a tiebreaker, and then if there was a tie again, then you would remove the score.
Yeah.
But I guess would you ever consider just not doing the tiebreaker and just removing the score, or what do you think about that?
I wouldn't. I would keep it as is. I think because I think as a dancer, right, I think about myself in that position as a dancer, that if I want to redeem myself, I want that chance, right? Like, and so I think that I would always have them perform the same song again. But again, I would still, I push for a new set of judges. And because I do my homework and I have that set up, it's pretty easy. And for me, I saw the Cooster asked too, that is that fair to have them there? Well, a lot of these judges will be there anyways, or say, hey, your check-in time is this time and you don't have to be here for the whole day, but just for this small portion of the day. They're totally okay with that too, right? And as a volunteer, a lot of times you get some volunteer benefits, right? So it's kind of like, well, if you could just spend a few hours with us to get a benefit, and then also to just in case we need you, people are more than willing to do that. And so to me, that's not a big deal. But yes, the first tie would be you dance the same routine, new set of judges, and then if there's a second tie, then that's when I minus the score or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Zhua, what's your perspective on that? Yeah.
Okay, so my perspective on ties is that yeah, there are 2 or more teams tie in this case, right? Like I said earlier, because of the environment that my competitions usually happen in, I have the same panel judge those X amount of teams that tied with the most recent routine that they did, because that is going to be the outfit that they are likely still going to stay in for the rest of the day. And if for any reason, after we attempt a tiebreaker, if for any reason the tie is not broken, instead of redoing the performances again, in order to save time and get things running, because you've already technically fallen behind time because of a tiebreaker, I would then drop. In my rules, I believe I have it as dropping down the lowest score. I have to look at it again, because in my mind right now, I'm thinking back to what you said earlier. Do you drop the highest and lowest scores? So now I got to go back and look at my thing. But what I recall is that I dropped the lowest score that I see, and then have that hopefully break the tie, because they tied again the second time. So you need something to break that tie. So that would be my approach on it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, thank you to all you guys for sharing your perspective on that. So, another question that came through was the introduction bow and then the conclusion bow. And it seems that those two things are actually judged pretty frequently nowadays. And however, something they did point out that it can be simple, but yet they still get a low score on it. But does being simple mean that it's not good, whereas being complex mean that it's good? So as coordinators, how do you guys make sure that you balance between that? Joa, I'll start with you with that.
Sure. I feel like I'm being pointed at here because it's on my rubric, but no, that's okay. Truly, yeah. Basically, like I said earlier, when judges judge, right, they judge based on their opinion of what they see. Literally during those 5 minutes that they see you on stage, right? So it just depends on what you bring to present on that, right? So obviously there's the beginning and the end of it, right? Which is your bow, the beginning and the beginning bow and the conclusion bow. And with that, for me specifically, it's open to whatever the judges feel like, as far as they want to score you, because all I ask is that they look at the creativity of your bow. You can be as fancy as you want with it. You could be as simple as you want with it. It's your choice, because it's your routine. It's your bow that you choose to attach to your routine. And the judges just judge on that. I can't break it down any further than that, because when you start breaking it down way too much, then there are too many little mini components that the judges have to remember on top of the orientation that you give them too, and the instructions that you give them. So in order not to bombard them, they just need to judge according to the description that you have with your judge categories that you have on the score sheet.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing your perspective on that. So next, I will have Sheng Yu answer. Sorry, I was writing down a question there. So when it comes to introduction bows and conclusion bows, and that being judged based on creativity, sometimes it can be simple, but yeah, people can score low. If it's very complex, isn't necessarily something to score well on. So you, either as a judge or a coordinator, how do you balance on between those two things?
So I have to. Okay, so how I feel about this is, as a coordinator, I've never done that, and I know of it because I know Shaw does it, right? But I don't do it because I feel like that shouldn't be part of for the dancers. I feel like just simply walking on stage and showing like a respectful bow of like it could be very short. Go straight into your position. All I personally care for. I just don't think a beginning or ending bow is very necessary. However, I'm sure like a lot of other coordinators feel different about it. That's just how I personally have my opinion on. And what is it? For dancers, I feel like when you have like a very creative or very simple, maybe basic bow, like I feel like don't put all your effort into it because I feel personally that it should just be a performance that should just be judged on and not the bow or the ending bow. Yeah, hopefully that helps.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective there, Shang. So Meng, how do you feel regarding judging or not judging an introduction and a conclusion bow? And do you think that that plays a big role in it or not? And how do you balance if it does?
Yeah, I'm with Shang. I've never had it on my score sheet. It was on with the previous coordinator, but for me, that doesn't tell me about who you are as a dancer. I think it's something fun, and I tell all my dancers it's kind of icing on the cake, but I don't really care to judge it. Just because I think that it's just like you say, you know, because I kind of want you on and off that stage as fast as possible. It's a program, and I want you to really focus on your routine and your choreography for me. That matters more, and that's what I'm really judging you on. So that's never been on my score sheet, and it never will be for me personally.
Okay. All right. So we have a lot of questions here. So
Yeah, I noticed.
okay. So I may and I'm doing my best to write down everything the best I can. But if I don't get to your question, I'm sorry. Okay. But well, we will try our very best to get to everyone's questions. So
Hey, Ying,
let's.
before you go on
Yep.
to the next thing, I just want to recap onto the bow and conclude that, right? I think some people really wonder why bother having it, right? And like Sheng and Meng said, it's perfectly fine too. You have your judges start judging based on whatever your score sheet is, whatever the categories are first. But I think some people are wondering why bother have that, right? For me, I have my judges start scoring you as soon as you walk onto that stage. So for me, my personal opinion, my personal preference is that if you're walking onto that stage and you're getting ready, I think before, back in the old days, a lot of people didn't have those, beginning bows. They only had like the ending bow, right? And I think it just kind of became this trend, and then so then like, and of course, the sky's the limit with how you want to make that bow. So because I see so many people doing, I'm like, you know what, that's another category to add in there. And again, my perspective is that we start judging you as soon as you are ready to start, and usually people are ready to start when they're doing that bow because they're convening on the stage and getting ready for that. So that to me is like the signal of the start of their routine. So I count it.
Yep.
So that's
okay. Yep. Yeah, and it's okay. Like I said before, there is no right or wrong way to do it. So I think however you do it, just make sure you do it well. So that's really how I think it should be approached there. So I'm gonna kind of jump around here a little bit and change it up. So what is your funniest dance memory? So May, let me start with you.
Oh my
Do you have a funny dance memory?
I don't know. So I have so many. Oh my gosh. I've done so many dances that I don't remember. I think, oh my God, funniest?
Like, did you ever forget something at home or anything like that? So
I'm pretty sure. So like, okay, this is how old I am. Okay. So when I started dancing, it was like a long scarf, right? That we had to physically wrap layer by layer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I'm pretty sure there was a time when it fell off my head, of course, because I have a big head too, you guys. And so it's gonna fall off. So I'm sure that's happened to me before. That's all I can really think of. But
Okay.
luckily, nothing really embarrassing has happened to me on stage. Oh my god, knock on wood.
All for you.
That's all I can really think of. Like, yeah, I'm like a true OG dancer, man. Like everything was like I've always had to wear like the real stuff that's really heavy. So
Yeah.
like very heavy.
Mhm.
I'm blessed that, before my mom got sick, that she sewed us a bunch of outfits. And so I have a ton of outfits that she gave to me when I got married. And so I'm really grateful to have those. So that's all I can think of.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Ming. So, Sheng, I'll come to you next. Do you have a funny dance memory that you would like to share with us?
I have many, but one thing that I will never forget is we went to one of our competitions, and we were, I think at that time, some stages still have carpet. Well, no. Okay, take that back. I think like a lot of stages still have carpet, but the one that we were standing on, one of my dancers, I'm not gonna say who. She's probably gonna kill me for this if she sees this. But I think there's like the top three on stage, and that was our very first dance competition ever. And if I remember right, we either got second or third, and we were still called Gomu USA. We were standing in a straight line. We were the second row from the front, so we were standing in the straight line. And after we were done, like with all the winning and stuff like that, we got our prize. We all walked. Like I remember that a few of my dancers cried because that was our first time winning second place or third place. We walked off the stage, and someone dropped something, and then the MC picked it up, and the dancer who went to go pick it up looked and was like, "What is that?" Like it looked like somebody legitly peed on the carpet, and it was from our row. That's for sure. We knew it was from our row, and so we walked off, and then the parents like asked us, and then one of my dancers, like she was really shy, but then later on, like a few practices later, she admit that was her because she was just so scared and she was just so nervous. That was probably like one of the best memories ever. After winning for the first time too. So it was our first competition. I believe that. Yeah, I can't recall. It was so long ago, but I love her, and I hope she doesn't kill me for this. But it was really funny, and
you don't name any names. I think you're fine.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. So, Joa, do you have a funny dance memory?
Oh boy. The only thing that comes to mind right now is oh my gosh, like this was like many years ago. We decided to participate in, and whoever's watching, you better not you better not say where it was or when, but then it was really long ago. It was a competition that we didn't initially plan to go to. I think it was like, in a way, it was kind of last minute, not really last minute, but kind of, and I remember towards the end of the whole routine, because 都是天的那起考那边啊，像那他安那这种那起的点，别这天都为了考路上天的那，let's just say 个他到考路项目上什么，个到考路项目上也不跟我来还跟那什么，It was not very stable, and I remember towards the end of the whole routine, for some reason, my foot did not land correctly, and I remember that moment that we were like on the last two measures of that song, and I could have fallen off the stage because I did not land on my foot properly.
No.
Yeah. And like it's not like we jumped or something, but just though how my foot fell, it was at an angle or just something was not right. And so when you put your weight to the other side because we were gonna go with the next move, then I felt my body. I could feel right away like it's like the unstableness literally like traveled up quickly on my body, and I knew at that moment that, oh my gosh, if I don't hold it together, I'm gonna go tumbling off the stage. And so I ended up doing like a funky move kind of at the end, right there. So
Trying to improvise? Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people caught it, but I remember when I came off the stage, I was like, "You guys, I nearly like took a tumble on stage." Oh, kudos to Angelia is what I was like thinking. So yeah, that's my
Okay,
funny
all
moment.
right. Well, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing that. It's always good. I'm sure we all have our own funny dance memories, but it's always good to think about that. It's what makes it memorable sometimes. So thank you for that. Next question that someone asked. It seems like dance prizes are usually the highest that they've seen it is right around $2,000, and in comparison to like sports, it's a lot lower. So sports, I think, just from what I've seen, you can see anywhere from 5 to 7, even maybe even $8,000. But they were just wondering why there seems to be a max right around the 2,000. And before you guys answer this, I know that maybe you guys don't really have complete control on how that's decided. Typically, it is the organization. But if you guys just kind of want to give a little bit of background on that, and Joa, I will start with you with that.
Sure. I think that the reason why, and this is not to say that, anyone is more important than the other, or any area is more important than the other. I think it's really based off on what that activity is. So, for example, like sports, like let's say soccer, right? They're not on the field for just 5 minutes versus a dance team, right? Of course, everybody practices, but我可能叫了老了后，那古准做去好一点，头个多当那个有多的其实那比较。So dancers obviously on the stage, you're up there for 5-6 minutes or so, right? And then you're done, you're off, right? Whereas sports, they are performing their activity a lot longer for an extended period of time. Now, I'm not into sports, so I don't know what their times are, but they are using a lot more physical energy. Not to say that dancers don't do that, but the sports are utilizing a lot more energy in a different method, in a different way, and for a longer period of time. And because of, I think, maybe that might be the reason why there is a big difference in amounts.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my thought. I don't know. Everybody has their own reasons. That's just my thought.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, thank you for sharing your perspective on that. So next, I will go to Mang. I guess, do you have any insight on why you think it's right around the 2,000 there for dancing?
No, I really don't. And just know again that I always advocate for more money, because again, just like sports, there's a lot of dancers, right? And some teams come with a lot of dancers, and you guys spend a lot of time and money and investment to traveling and joining in at all these competitions. And so just know that we advocate for more money. Again, it really comes down to the organization. No matter how hard we fight sometimes, like we don't win that all the time. But I think that's definitely a huge issue. I would love to see those prizes raised as well. But it comes back down to the organization, fundraising, and unfortunately, especially in our moment right now, I've never really seen a lot of people donate to the arts community. So that includes singing, dancing, artists, drawers, singers, like all of that. There's just a lack of funding in general, and even in mainstream when it comes to dancing. And so just know that I know that. And again, as a dancer, I would love to see those prices come up, and hopefully we can advocate for more and get more funding in so that we can, pay back or give back to our communities.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing your perspective on that, Ming. So, Shang, I know that you as a coordinator and as a dancer, and maybe even talking a little bit about how prizes used to be back in the day. I guess. Well, what are your thoughts with where prizes are with dance versus like sports and other things?
So yeah, like Shua said before with the sports, I definitely agree with that, honestly, because I know that we all may use our own kind of energy. Like maybe for you, you feel like that's literally all your strength that you use to dance and stuff like that on stage, and waking up early, having to get everything set for dance and stuff. But I think sports do the exact same thing. And I feel like most of them, like look at Kiana. So literally, like on stage, they bet your dancers sing in your more she's a But then when it comes to like sports, um, like the sports team, maybe they do too, but I feel like they run so much, right? And I feel like the prize money, like Jo said too, you don't have it's not that they're more important than dance and stuff, but the organization can't provide so much for everybody. And I think when I was coordinating, I even added my own pocket money for my dance competition because I feel like what is it? It was necessary to do so because I wanted more groups to come, and I know that like the Appleton New Year doesn't offer a lot, and so I try my best. And it's really up to the dancers if they want it, they take it. Like if it's 1,000, it's all about having fun. It's all about enjoying the moment. It's not. It shouldn't be so much about the money. I feel like, because I feel like if you're just going to say, "Oh, then it's almost kind of like you only care for the money and you're not caring for the talent. But I understand the money comes with the part that you're spending so much time. And me as a dancer, I know you're spending so much time and so much money at the end of the day after dance practice. You're really exhausted and stuff like that. But you're the one who's willing to do that, right? You're the one who's willing to accept that, go forward with it. And so I feel like for me, just me, I don't want to complain about it because I know that I'm willing to do it. No matter what it takes, I'm going to do it. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah,
I
thank
just
you
want to
for
jump
sharing
in.
your perspective on
Yeah,
that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Yep.
yeah. I just want to jump in and kind of recap on just that part, right? I want everyone to understand that regardless of what you do, regardless of what industry, what field it is, right? Ja, go on the na, go over, go so she and okay, cheer there. Itu pia go mo ole itu you are gone, right? You so she or whether if it's go mo the bond your body go mo linky la na be alright. Lomuto dancing in this particular case, right? You do it because you enjoy, you do it because you have the passion. I think one thing that if I had a personal message to get to everybody, I would say simply that prize money is prize money, right? It's something there. So what you're, involving yourself with that particular event has value to it of some sort, right? To a degree. You should not be getting involved with that particular event or that activity if your goal is to try to, make ends meet or like have it cover your expenses or whatnot, right? Because unless if you do it as a profession,那也特里奥的是 they know about what you go away on the professional level, it is just the recreational level now. And kusako should so for dancers, you spend a lot of time to practice, right? You spend a lot of time to say sports teams, there's a low order like uniforms, right? But they too spend a lot of time, practicing on the fields too to get ready for their events too. So we all have to prepare in our own way. But the purpose, as far as recreational wise, because that's what big Hmong events now are. We're not like Mika, where they have their own professionals like the Olympics or something like that, because Beijing events that Maybe someday in the future it may, but as far as we know right now, it's still developing. It may take some time before it gets there. So until it gets there, keep in mind that, you should be doing it because you enjoy it as a hobby, as an interest. And, Oli Shanghai Potana, you should be doing it not because of the money, because Niyachila cover Yudan Tona, and it shouldn't be. And I suppose from an organizer standpoint too, they have expenses too, whether if it's an event that they run outside or if it's an event that they run indoors, there are expenses left and right that, the attendees are not aware of. And I think it's difficult for an organizer to balance out those expenses, whether if they are a nonprofit or a profit. Nothing is free, regardless. And if you got something free, it's because somebody else covered the expense for it, regardless if it's a good or a service. So again, you should be doing it because you have the love for that activity that you do, and not to try to make a profit out of it.
Okay. But yeah, thank you to all of you guys for sharing your perspective on that. And it's very interesting to look at it. And I was actually planning on doing a future broadcast just regarding that, because I was doing some research on it, comparing history to now. And back then, looking at the prizes for second and third place, I looked at all the competitions that like me and Joa we as Gomokatsu went to, and I added all and to every single place we went to, and it's like Wisconsin gave about $20,000 during that time allocated specifically to dance competitions. And looking at what the prizes are now, considering that we've expanded to groups A and B in so many places and there's been an increase in prizes, we've just about doubled the amount that has contributed towards dance competitions. And a lot more New Year's are offering dance competitions that did not offer them before. And so it's like right around $41,000. And that's actually more than Minnesota and California put together. That they contribute towards dance competitions, and this is just in Wisconsin. And so it was really interesting looking at those numbers. And I just want to say to all the dancers that back then we also had to pay registration fees too. We paid $50, $75. I remember when Gomokatsu went to Fresno, we paid $150, and registration is still $150. And it's $3,000 for first place. Back then it was $1,000 for first place. And so looking at where we've grown to, I think we can only go up, and we do want that, that additional support, but it's going to take time to get there. And I think if we continue to work together as a community, we can definitely get there. So I just want to share that to everybody, because we have definitely gotten up there, and I hope that we continue to go up. So all right, I think we can probably take the
I love that you have stats. They're so cool.
I'm like, it's just so interesting to look at all this. And so I'm definitely going to do another broadcast to show everybody kind of what the stats are on that in the future. So tune in to see that later on. I think we got time for a couple more questions here. So another question that came through was, as a coordinator, what is a very hard situation that you experienced, and how did you handle that? Meng, I'm going to start with you. What was a hard situation that you experienced?
Okay, so my first year, so the funny thing is that before I became the coordinator, I was kind of out of the dance community, right? And so my first year was actually really tough on me because even though I've done events before, I've never done a competition, right? Which is very different from your usual events. And so I wasn't as organized as I could be. I definitely know that my award ceremony that year sucked. Like, it didn't go the way that I wanted, but I did the best that I could. And so that's all you can do, right? And so again, learning from all of those things, I asked for feedback, I got feedback, and then I just changed. And I was flexible, and I just did more of my homework. And so that's kind of just how I have handled it. And I don't know. I want to listen to what the needs are in our community and, just try to fill that as much as I can. That's all you can be. I want to be solution based and not just complain all the time, right? So I always say too that I believe that it's true that if you complain, then come with me with a solution that we can implement so that we can fix that problem. Don't just complain to me and keep complaining to me, because that doesn't really solve anything. Come with me with a potential solution, because I'm more than willing to listen and also to, again, address that. And like me and Joel talk about all the time, have like your backups have a backup, right? So try to think of any and all solution or situations that can arise, and then
all the potential options, perspectives.
For that, right? It's hard as a coordinator because we try to control as much as we can, but there's always going to be like those really interesting people or those really interesting situations that come up and make us edit and review our rules and regulations, and that's why they get longer every year, right, Joel?
Yep, that's why it gets longer. If you guys have followed me or participated in Guja competitions, you guys will notice that I literally went from like 2 pages to like probably like 4 or something like that. It's really long because there's just something that always comes up, and sometimes you can see it kind of coming and sometimes you can't. And your job as a coordinator is to make sure that whatever comes your way, you have to deal with that, because that's the job of the coordinator. You gotta do with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then thank you for sharing, Meng and Joel. I was gonna come to you next. I know you did kind of talk a little bit already, but was there a specific situation that was really hard for you that you remember, and how did you handle that?
Oh, yes. I will say that probably the most 2 common things that I encounter. Ina is gonna be when you have judges who are supposed to show up, right, and for some reason they are unable to make it. And that is probably one of the things that can top a coordinator's worst fears, or dilemmas, right? Because you have all your ducks in a row and you're ready to go, and all of a sudden, like, one of them has to pull out or something happened, right? Regardless if it's the day of the event or the night before or a couple days before or a week before. I have experienced all of them, especially after having so many competitions that I've held already. So that's one. The other thing is 没有帮上 yes. Again, Memorial Labor Day are at a really big, huge community county park, and I manage everything that you guys see on the stage. So from setting up the stage to decorating it to takedown to logistics, everything by the stage is all under me. And so, and of course, because that is kind of like the only place where you can okay, everybody, here's the last kid, and naturally that is also where somebody would go to, because it kind of serves as a center because it's a stage. So is they usually leave the kid with me, and so I now have to juggle between keeping an eye on that child and also running everything else that I have to run to make sure that the show goes on smoothly. So that is definitely one of the most stressful and difficult things. And all I can do is just keep that child there until security comes by and says, hey, we found the parents, or the parents, or their caregiver or legal guardian comes up there and claims that child. And I usually don't just hand off the child. I usually converse with the child, say, hey, do you recognize this person? Do you know this person? I don't just hand off a kid like that. I have to look and see, does willing to so yeah, that's one of the most stressful things ever.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Joel. So Shang, I guess did you ever experience a very difficult situation, and how did you handle that as a coordinator?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna specifically speak about just like the new year when I did it. Agenda, like our program agenda was crazy. I feel like it's all because with the older board members, they want everyone to show up, and without anyone there, they don't want to proceed with the event, right? So it's always going to be pulled back 2 hours, an hour to 2 hours, and I hate it. I always try talking with them and stuff, but like because you're younger, at least for me, it's kind of biased. I feel like because you're younger, they feel like they have more control over you, and so you just really have to stay calm, be understanding for them too, because they do want people to be there. So just be very calm, be understanding. If if you feel like it's pulled back way too far, I maybe pulled in like the show dance performances and stuff like that. Like whoever that came in checked in first, you can ask them like, hey, I know you're supposed to go at this time, but do you mind you go during this time because they don't want to start yet, and then later on we can give you a second performance if we have time. And usually most of the time when I experience that with a few performers, they usually say yeah, that's fine, because either they do want to get out of the way, or they don't have anything else to do and they've been there. So yeah, just falling behind schedule. I can't recall another time. I think it's music too. Yeah, music too. But the time when I did it, the music guy was great. I loved him, so he was great. I didn't have like very much no difficulties around music and stuff like that. But I would say if I ever do, is the number one to everything is literally like I just step back, take a deep breath, and like I just literally breathe for a long time and just think, because I feel like if it really like triggered me with like a lot of stuff that's going on, then I get more heated at the moment. So I like to like step back and just kind of rest for a little bit. I know I don't have time for that, but I really do. Like I would just sit back and I would just stare at the wall when I need to, and I would just I would walk out and be like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this again. Okay. And that's what I would do. Like, I know like some of you guys would be like, no, I don't have time for that and stuff like that. But I literally find time for myself to breathe, drink a cup of water, because I usually have like my snack and stuff in my purse. So I would take that because I know something's going to go on. And I know myself very well that if something's wrong with me, I need it. Okay. So I always prepare for myself and for others and stuff like that. I love myself too, so I always find time to just stay calm. And then usually there will at least be always like there's always going to be 1 to 2 elders from the board members that are very understanding, from my experience. And usually I know there was one time when they wanted to pause the program for I think like 30 minutes, and I was like, that is impossible because I am not doing that. And so they did that because they wanted everybody to go eat, because we're all small in the year, so they provide food for everyone that attends, right? And my experience was that nope, I'm not doing that. And the OGs, they were still eating. All the board members were still over there. I ran back and continued everything because I was like, there's no way we're gonna postpone this for another hour or 30 minutes. Like, no way is that gonna happen. But yeah, so that's one thing, and just the agenda, and yeah, staying calm.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yep.
But Yin, can I share
Ming, did
something?
you
Sorry.
have
That
something?
just reminded me. I don't know. I feel like we go through so much that it's hard to pinpoint something, but just to go off the agenda thing. So in 2018, my program director kind of wrote the wrong timing on the agenda. So we were like, we were like 30 minutes or 40 minutes ahead of schedule or something, right? So I was panicking because I had given my dance groups like their check-in was that year I kept it at 30 minutes, but then last year I pushed it back to 45 minutes, right, to check in before we go on, because I was like, holy crap, like my dancers aren't ready. They're all like most of them are checked in, but they still have time. Like, this is way too ahead of schedule. Like, what the heck? We've never been this far ahead in schedule, right? And it was Sunday. So I was like panicking, and I was like, okay, so shout out to Kate and whoever your MC was, because they freaking stalled for me like none other. Like, oh my God, hello. And they told so many jokes that day. It was so freaking amazing that I was like, oh my God, thank God that we were able to kind of, just do those things on the fly, right? Because it's so weird that happened. And, like, we're all so busy. And again, there's so many moving parts that year we were ahead of schedule. And I'm like, this never happens. And so that was we were able to just like improvise. And I ended up going to ask dance groups if we could change up the orders, but I wanted to be fair, right? So I didn't want somebody to feel pressured or have that affect their performance. At the end of the day, we were able to still go on time and in order. And so I'm grateful for that, because I never want to be the factor that somebody would say, oh man, like Ming pressured me, so I felt like I didn't do my best, right? Like, I never want somebody to say that. And so luckily everything worked out, but we have never been ahead of schedule like that before, so that was very interesting.
Okay, I'm going to add on to that. Okay, so I think that I think Xiongdona, I'm sure that was just an honest typo.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna assume it was an honest typo. I'm sure it was. Yeah, I remember that because I was seeing. So I'm gonna tell you right now that the reason why Ong and her partner ended up staying on stage is because they were looking at me and Gujin Gona with their and Mustafa, yes, we were 30 minutes ahead. And I was telling you, and you were running around. So I was running around too, because I was like, oh my gosh, we got to get going. But luckily, on the part and go, ngược cả nhỏ sầu nó ấy lâu lúc xí hở khó tiền giờ xí là nó chơi cũng tôi yêu mà hay cứ chia lo xí là cũng tôi không try li nó you like try to stall you sing or something like that, because like again, like I can't, like I'm not a comedian, like, so I'm not gonna like go on stage and try to entertain the crowd for 30 minutes. It's a lot easier when you have another person with you, and I unfortunately did not have a partner, but luckily, I just told him, I just looked at him and said, Nikki Lilo she has suma ready. So that's what happened. On stage, it looked like it was fine. Backstage and everywhere else, man, you remember it was like, we were like chickens with no heads running all over, like, It was really stressful, but yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, again, it's those funny special memories that make it very, very memorable.
I almost forgot until Shang said that. I was like, oh my God, I have to share this, because we're going to like pee our pants. Like,
the last 2 years, the last 2 years, I came to the Milwaukee New Year. The first year, chỉ có memory chỉ yo khó nè con đó là một khó type nè coi like and say we're behind, so like you're scrambling to find where everybody is, right? And then me as the MC, I was like, holy crap, what am I gonna do with this time? I don't want to go on stage. Shoot. So that was the first year, and then my second memory, is definitely 頭個包隻箱係掉俾我睇啦，同埋買睇完呢波掉去落嚟去攞呢個包送你走咗。I saw you 咁啊，佢清啦，佢波清啦。It's just like I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? So I'm like, okay, we have a tie. Figure out what we're gonna do right now. I know for sure we have a tie. So I'm like, get your forces ready and go.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that too. I just remember when Ming showed up and said, "We have a tie," and I'm like, "Oh man, I have to be the one to announce it now." And
I'm glad it was. I'm glad you got my
so,
spot that day.
but
It was
hey,
a
it's like
blessing
I
in
said,
disguise.
it's these kinds of things that make it so memorable, and it makes it very, very special. So it's good to cherish these moments, because yeah, they are very, very special, as crazy as they may be sometimes. So all right, so we have been on air for two
A long
hours
time.
now, and that was actually my limit. So I know we didn't get to everybody's questions, but what I'm trying to do is I do look forward to having more broadcasts like this in the future. It looks like a lot of our viewers, you guys have given us a lot of really, really good feedback. And there's so much to discuss when it comes to Hmong dancing and the dance community. And we can go on forever. I know that, but we're gonna unfortunately we will end it here tonight. And I will definitely do some more research on my end, and you guys stay tuned for more broadcasts that I do. I do want to bring these ladies back, for future broadcasts, and maybe bring others to do broadcasts with me in the future. So keep an eye out for that. And if you guys have questions or have ideas on topics that you want me to broadcast, or you want any of these ladies to talk about, please, let me know. Let the ladies know if you guys know them. Just shoot us a message. We always want to be able to be here and talk openly with you guys. And I think Wisconsin has come so far with dancing in the Hmong community. And I just want to say thank you to all the dancers, all the supporters, all the parents, all of the organizations, all of our coordinators, all of our volunteers, everybody who makes this possible. So thank you so much to you guys. And I know that we're going to be ending it, but to all you ladies, if you guys just want to say us a quick last few words, Shane, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'm going to say thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I know it's been 2 hours, but that's the fun part is when everybody comes and join and like listens to us, right? I know that we did mention some stuff that maybe Leichi, this or share or something like that, but hopefully you guys will look at this like in a brighter light and say that, oh, like maybe look at two different point of views, and learn something that we have said. Again, we have experiences, so we just kind of wanted to state all of these problems or issues that arise. And as dance coordinators, we always work hard because we know, we understand that you dancers work just as hard. Okay. And so whatever we do it just for you guys. So we ask that you guys respect us and anybody out there who's supporting you guys with anything that you are so passionate for. Especially thank you for coming here. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Shane. Meng, any last words?
Yeah, same sentiment. So grateful for our dance community here. I want to really build a strong sisterhood, and I'm really grateful to have met, Zhou, Baiying, and Shang. Like, I just feel like we're meant to be. It's really crazy how this all worked out, and building the sisterhood and continuing to do that so that we can continue to have Hmong dance in our community. I think that's so important. I never want to that to not be a part of us. It runs so deep in our culture and in our roots. It goes back so long, and I never want to see that die down. And so I want to encourage all dancers to continue doing what you're doing, and that we are here, we listen, and again, we work really hard for you guys out of, volunteer time as well. And, I know that we're all busy. We have families, and so we try our best to do what we can, and just look forward to seeing all of you, meeting all of you, and just doing a lot more for our dance community. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Meng. Zhua, any last words?
Okay, so I have a couple points, and it may not be in order, so it might not be very smooth, but just want to thank everybody for what you do. I know that tonight it was a rare opportunity to get a glimpse inside of these minds here. As from a coordinator standpoint, or is definitely not seen because it's a whole bunto beta to you, me, and other coordinators that run competitions. And so, thankful and grateful for everyone for joining us tonight. Thankful to all the dancers and the parents, the coaches, assistants, friends, family, fans, supporters, regardless of what side of the spectrum you're on. Thank you for putting dance as an interest, as a hobby, as an activity, because I know I've said it on stage before that, again, it's not about the expenses, it's not about the money, it's the experience, but also it's something to keep everyone out of trouble. Okay, we'll put it that way. And so with that going forward, I know that a lot of your teams that are probably going to be likely soon be joining the veteran pool here, in order to ensure that they know we still have more dance teams and we're able to continue this, it's going to rely on those who have been supporting along the way, and those who hopefully will continue to support in the future. That is one of the things that is going to help ensure that this continues on for many years and hopefully many generations. And that is part of the reason why I started Group A here in the state, to help support the younger dancers and to inspire them. Because bây giờ bé dancer chỉ bên我不头bé妹妹了人到呢and being我真能够在胸头so and in order for that to happen, it has to start when they're small, has to start when they're young. So thank you for everyone for your support, regardless of which side of the spectrum you're on again, and hopefully that continues. And then thank you to those who, if you guys are watching, you know who you are. Thank you. Now, I will say that it's a whole lot coordinated on a new young either. To whole so she's on ya, need more just trust it hona. And it's got its ups and downs, but it's nonetheless very rewarding, and I consider it a privilege and an honor to be able to work with so many people, get to know so many people. I never thought that I would ever get an opportunity to come and hold such a position like this, but it has definitely made me grow, and I think that many other people who coordinate can also relate to that too as well. So thank you everyone for understanding. Thank you for your support, your love, and I myself look forward to meeting all of you whenever we are able to. And with that, I want to close that with a reminder that everybody, these are very difficult times that I think that Bay generation we will remember for many years to come. So please stay inside. Do not go out unless if you absolutely have to. Stay safe. Okay. So until then, we will see each other.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Joa. Thank you again to Meng and to Shang, and thank you everybody, to all of our viewers. Yeah, like Joa said, right now it's not really the time to be going out, and I know that Beja dancers, need to be tryout, 不投入一零度 practice, and I know you guys can't really get together, and everything is just virtual, but need to know virtual 去么去我了，hey, 能不能被洗他 like this, so I was just like, hey, I'm gonna take this opportunity and start something new that we haven't done before, and I definitely don't regret that. So something good can always come out of even a situation like this. And so thank you so much again to everybody, and again, please message me or any of the ladies if you guys have more questions, or if you guys have topics you guys want us to discuss in the future. We are definitely open to that. So thank you again. Good night to everyone.
Alrighty, right, thank you everyone. It was a pleasure. Bye.
Happy Easter.
Yeah.
Bye. Yeah.